Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching this, to everyone who's attending the Newly Diagnosed 101. The goal of this is to just introduce you and welcome you to the community, talk a little bit about Angelman syndrome, a little bit about the foundation and the supports, and just support you in any way we can. So we have a packed agenda and we have amazing guests with us today. So let's move forward and let's get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amanda Moore, and I'm the CEO of the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. But more importantly, I'm mom to Jackson, who lives with Angelman syndrome, who's 10. And now I'd love for you to meet some other people on the team, and we'll start with Dr. Liz Gelazzo.
Hi guys, I am Liz Gelazzo. I am a pediatrician and a pediatric geneticist at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm the medical director for the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, and as Amanda mentioned, also, most importantly, mom to Evelyn, who is turning 11, who has Angelman syndrome, in addition to two other typically developing kiddos who are 13 and 8. Happy to be here. Catherine?
Hey, I am Catherine Ely. I am outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I am the Family Resource Director here at the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. I've been here for about 5 years. It's my passion to talk to other families and help them through this time. I have my son, Stetson, who is 12 with Angelman syndrome. He was diagnosed at 17 months. And we also have two neurotypical children, 6 and 4 right now. And we enjoy being on here and talking with families and helping out however we can. And now, Chloe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chloe Knuff. I work at the Angelman Syndrome Foundation as the Director of Strategy and Engagement and do a lot of things to support families and help our organization be able to reach our goals so that we can do more in therapeutics, research, and family resources. I live outside Atlanta, Georgia as well with my husband and my two children. My oldest, Wiley, is 7 years old at this moment, and he has Angelman syndrome. So I am happy to be here for you as a resource and as a fellow mom on this journey. Alyssa?
Hi, I'm Alyssa Tamaro. I am the Director of Special Events, and I am here to have fun. Really, that's my job, is to provide opportunities for all of you to get together, connect, and meet one another. Also, the important job of fundraising so that we have the resources and things that all of you need as you move forward in your journey. I am not a parent of someone with Angelman syndrome, but feel like I'm an adopted member of the community and am so grateful to be here with all of you and supporting all of you. So thank you for having me.
So as you can see, we have a really robust team, and if there's ever anything that you need in the community, I'm sure someone on our team will be able to help. So we're going to get started. Let's go to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit overall about the mission of the organization. The Angelman Syndrome Foundation was founded almost 32 years ago by people just like us, parents. Parents who are sitting around the room thinking we've got to figure out ways to support our loved ones with Angelman syndrome, to care for them, and to find ways that we could possibly treat the condition moving forward. And so here we are 32 years later, and the mission is still the same. Our mission is to advance the awareness and the treatment of Angelman syndrome through education and information, through research, and support for individuals with Angelman syndrome, their families, and other concerned parties. But most of all, we exist to give all of our individuals with Angelman syndrome a reason to smile, with the ultimate goal of finding a therapeutic treatment or a cure. So we have several focus areas, as you can see. Our focus areas really work on, one, how do we provide real access for supports, resources? I always say that if you need something, you can probably find it on our website as a resource in some sort of way. But we want to give you access to all those items that you will need to support you in the journey. Next, and even more importantly, we want to create connections for you, for your emotional and your physical well-being. Being connected with the community and with others who are walking this journey will be some of the best therapy that you can possibly have in this journey. So our goal is to connect you, and we will talk about ways that we're doing that down the slides. Third, we want to fuel innovation and research. The Angelman Syndrome Foundation has been funding research for over 32 years with the focus, once again, of how do we improve the quality of life of our loved ones. We also really work on how do we provide care and treatment at different centers throughout the US, which we'll talk about soon. And last, our goal is to advocate for all. How can we make sure on a state and a federal level, and even in your local towns, at your schools, wherever it may be, building advocates and giving tools for you all to become advocates moving forward? So I'm going to actually pass this to Liz, our amazing doctor and chief medical officer, to talk to you a little bit about what Angelman syndrome is.
Thanks, Amanda. Okay, so you've received this diagnosis of a loved one. Maybe it's your child, maybe it's your sibling, maybe it's your grandchild, and you're wondering what in the world does this mean? And how do you explain it to other family members? So I think the first is to acknowledge, we always like to remind everybody this. This is an incredibly complex neurogenetic disorder. There are clinicians and scientists who spend their entire lives dedicated to studying and understanding Angelman syndrome in the region of the genome where this disorder originates from genetically. And so this is something that you might need to hear over and over and over again for it to really sink in. I don't expect this to entirely make sense from the get-go. So Angelman syndrome is, as you know, a rare neurogenetic disorder that affects approximately 1 in 15 to 1 in 20,000 people as we know it right now. We are not doing population level newborn screening or any other genetic screening approaches to really truly understand how common it is. But our best estimate is that it occurs in about 1 to 15,000 live births. And it is a pan-ethnic disorder, meaning that it impacts people of all different races, ethnicities. There's no certain area of the world where we think it occurs more frequently or less frequently. And the common cause of Angelman syndrome is that it is caused by a loss or a dysfunction of the UBE3A gene, which is on the 15th chromosome. When that loss or dysfunction of UBE3A happens on the 15th chromosome that we receive from mom, we have Angelman syndrome. This is one of a unique groups of disorders where if we're missing a genetic region that is on mom's chromosome, we have different symptoms than if we're missing the genetic information that originated on dad's chromosome. So you'll hear us talk about on the maternal chromosome over and over and over again, but it's important to remember that there's nothing that moms did to cause this region of chromosome 15 to either be missing or not working. There's nothing that you could do to prevent that from happening or cause it to happen. And we'll talk a little bit about the chances of it happening again once you've already had one child diagnosed with Angelman syndrome. So again, it's caused, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's caused by this loss of genetic material from mom's copy of chromosome 15. And some generalizations about kind of what we see in people who have Angelman syndrome is we see severe developmental delays that can start early in infancy and persist across the lifespan. One thing that's really unique about Angelman syndrome is while receptive language may be much better, there is a profound lack of expressive speech. And this is really unique to Angelman syndrome. We see movement and balance disorders or challenges, again, from early in infancy across the lifespan, and as well as epilepsy and sleep disturbances. One thing that's really unique about Angelman syndrome is this kind of happy, excitable, easily excitable demeanor that we see. We see frequent smiling and laughter, and we think that that's really genuine. We think that people with Angelman syndrome have a unique way of seeing the world and really do find this true joy in everyday things that we may not necessarily appreciate. Something that I'm often asked is whether people with Angelman syndrome only are happy and laughing and smiling. And all of us on this call will tell you, and as you all now know, people with Angelman syndrome experience a wide range of human emotions, all of the human emotions, and they're not shy about letting you know when they feel those human emotions. So they're not just always happy and smiling. And though Angelman syndrome is a lifelong condition, people with Angelman syndrome do continue to make progress and gain milestones across the lifespan, particularly with the right supports and the right therapies. And as Amanda mentioned, the research field is really rapidly advancing towards potential treatments that may change what we know about the natural history of Angelman syndrome. Next slide. Okay, so this slide I do not expect to make sense, but you can keep coming back to this slide over and over again. You can share this slide with family members, but this is the 4 different genetic ways that you can have Angelman syndrome. And it's important to start talking about these from the beginning because it helps us understand the therapies that are in development, but it also helps you understand as you're navigating the community what those different little terms that you're seeing in the Facebook groups or as you're talking to other families who have a loved one with Angelman syndrome, what in the world they mean. So the first and most common type of Angelman syndrome is the deletion subtype. And this is where on that 15th chromosome that's inherited from mom, we have a microdeletion. We have a chunk of DNA that's missing from that 15th chromosome that includes the UBE3A gene, but is in addition about 100 other genes that are surrounding UBE3A on the 15th chromosome. One thing that's interesting about Angelman syndrome and UB3A is that it's only expressed from mom's copy. And so the common thread throughout all of these different subtypes is that in the brain, if you don't have mom's copy working, you have functionally no UB3A in the brain. And UB3A is a critical protein for how the brain learns, how it develops, how it functions. So in those individuals who have that deletion subtype, again, this encompasses about 70% of individuals. And oftentimes you'll see people refer to their child or their loved one as deletion positive or del positive. So that's what that means. It's referring to those children that have a deletion on the chromosome 15, mom's copy of chromosome 15. The next most common subtype that we see is where that region is fully there on mom's 15th chromosome. There's no deletion. The region is fully there and it's intact, but there's a spelling change or a really, really tiny deletion within the UBE3A gene itself that's making the UBE3A gene not be able to work. Again, because UBE3A is only expressed from mom's copy in the brain, if we have a mutation that's making the gene not be able to do its job or not function appropriately, then the result is Angelman syndrome. This occurs about 10 to 15% of the time as we know it right now. As more and more people are receiving whole exome sequencing or whole genome sequencing, as this is becoming more frequently offered to individuals with developmental delay, but also more commonly paid for by either Medicaid or commercial insurance companies, we are doing more and more sequencing. And so we are finding more and more individuals who have that UBE3A mutation subtype. So as you're in the Facebook groups, as you're meeting other families, you might see this denoted as either UBE3A or mutation subtype. Moving down the line, we have the UPD subtype or uniparental disomy. And this occurs when instead of receiving one copy of chromosome 15 from dad and one copy of chromosome 15 from mom, we receive accidentally both of our chromosome 15s from dad. And so functionally, if we don't have mom's copy there, then and we know UB3A is only expressed from mom's copy, then the same result happens that we don't have any functional UB3A in the brain and we have Angelman syndrome. This is less common, but occurs in about 5 to 10% of cases. And again, you'll see that denoted in groups as the UPD subtype. And then the least common subtype is an imprinting center defect or ICD subtype or imprinting subtype. This occurs when mom's copy of UB3A is just accidentally switched off. So there's these little on-off switches that actually control the expression of our genes. That's why dad's copy is turned off. Mom's copy is supposed to be turned on. But if mom's copy is accidentally turned off, again, functionally, we end up with the same consequence, which is no UBE3A in the brain because mom's copy is accidentally turned off. So this occurs in about 5 to 7% of cases. And again, will be denoted either as imprinting or ICD. Next slide. Okay, so this is a question that I commonly hear in the clinic. We commonly hear in the newly diagnosed sessions when I'm chatting with newly diagnosed families is what are my chances of having a second child who has Angelman syndrome? When you're in the community, you'll realize that there are some families who have multiple children who have Angelman syndrome. And so it naturally drives this question of what are my chances of having two children who have Angelman syndrome? This is a little bit of a complicated question to answer, and it really should be reviewed in each individual family's context. And this is where it becomes really incredibly valuable to meet with a genetic counselor where they can review your family's genetic testing and can really give you solid numbers. But generally speaking, the deletion subtype, that most common subtype, is not something that we see run in families, is not something that's inherited. That is typically a random event that occurs for the first time in that child and is not something that we see occur multiple times. There are, of course, families who have twins who have genetically identical twins, and they both have the deletion subtype. So in the community, there are a couple of families that do have multiple children who have the deletion subtype, but those are typically twins. To rule out and to really fully explore whether there are additional chances, we typically do recommend that mom, in families who have a child with a deletion subtype child, that we recommend that mom undergo genetic testing, looking at her chromosome 15 to make sure that it's structurally normal and that it's the way we expect it to be. But again, this is a conversation that you should have with your genetic counselor or your genetics team. And I'm always happy to meet with families to review their genetic testing results and have these conversations as well. This is something that's also done in the Angelman clinics across the country. Then, on the other hand, where we do see Angelman syndrome running more commonly in families is the mutation subtype or that imprinting center ICD subtype. In those families, it's very important to look at the subtype that we see as well as maternal testing to see whether mom is silently carrying a change in her UBE3A gene or on her chromosome, on her 15th chromosome that could be heritable. And in those families, we can see sometimes up to a 50% risk or chance of having a second child who has Angelman syndrome. Again, this is incredibly nuanced, and I wouldn't want anybody to take this as their only counseling about what their chances of having another child with Angelman syndrome is. So this is something that we're always happy to discuss in further detail.
Sometimes we have newly diagnosed families who get their genetic report and they don't know the subtype. It's not listed yet. And so Liz and I always talk about how please feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out to your geneticist again, because you might be looking at that report and being like, I have no idea what this is saying. And it's hard to just figure it all out or try to figure it out. So know that you can always reach out, and your geneticist, your neurologist should be, whoever did your testing should be able to further help you with that as well. We just get
But
that all.
sometimes that still needs, additional levels of review. So it is not supposed to be intuitive. It is like it's written in Japanese. It is not supposed to be something that you understand. So feel free to reach out if there are any questions about your genetic test report, or if your geneticist has questions about your genetic test report or your genetic counselor that you've seen. We are always available for that consultation.
Yes, because getting this newly diagnosed, it's difficult. It's hard. It is a lot to take in, and you're not supposed to become, you will become an expert for sure, but you're not supposed to become an expert in one day. So know that you are surrounded by people who can by far take you. Now, what that leads us to is our family support, which we have so much. And it can be really, really overwhelming when you go to our website to see all of the things that can apply to you and your family. But it's also so wonderful to have everything at your fingertips to be able to share news with your family. And so the first thing we have is our contact registry, which is so important for us at the Angelman Syndrome Foundation to be able to keep up with everyone's email addresses so we can send you the latest and breaking, the latest news that's coming out. We can send you updates or fun things of events that are happening, but it's just really important to keep us up to date with where you are so that you can be informed about everything going on within the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. We also really highly encourage you to share this contract registry with your family and friends because, again, when you're newly diagnosed, it is really difficult to share this information over and over and over again. And sometimes it's nice to just be able to point people to a place where they can start looking. And more than that, how they can start looking to support you as well. So please make sure that you join the contact registry so you are informed about everything we have. The resource library is a lot, and we have everything in one place kind of for you. So if you go to our resource library, you type in anything you might be looking at, whether that is geneticist or genetic reports in this case, the newly diagnosed 101 webinar, this video, you might also want to share with your friends and family so they can have an idea. Just type it into that library and it will populate a lot of information for you to share out with your friends and family. Seizure information, clinics, events, webinars, podcasts, whatever you can think of, we have it and it is in that library. Did you want to add anything to that, Amanda, as far as the contact registry or the resource library?
No, I think that sometimes, I always tell new families, sometimes getting on the resource library, you don't know what you actually need. If you're watching this and you are newly diagnosed, if you go to our landing page, there is a link just for you that you can click newly diagnosed, and there's a page that will kind of highlight what we feel the most important resources are right now in your journey. So if that's an easier step for you to take, that's a good first step for you to take. But I think, Catherine, you've done that perfectly explaining what we have.
Correct. So it is a lot. It is a lot to take over, but go to the newly diagnosed tab and you'll see all of those things kind of pop up. Shoot us an email. We are happy to condense this information for you as well. The clinical network is something that provides specialized clinics and providers for care. I know sometimes when you're newly diagnosed, you become the expert. And how many times have you heard, wow, I've never heard of that before. This is something new. What is Angelman syndrome? And it can be difficult to walk into a doctor's office when you feel like they don't know what Angelman syndrome is as well. So the clinical network is here to provide that specialized care and to walk into a room where you just know everyone is an expert. And it is an amazing feeling to be able to do that. We will talk about our clinics a little bit more later. We also have the ASF Family Fund, which opens twice a year, except for on our conference years. So on the odd years, our ASF Family Fund is open the first 2 weeks of October and the first 2 weeks of April. The purpose of the Family Fund is that families can apply for items or resources that may improve the life of any individual with AS. We are looking to help your family out with this, whether that's getting to a clinic, because sometimes travel can be difficult, if that's an adaptive tricycle, if that is a communication device, a safety bed, whatever you might need at this moment that insurance is just not helping you with. So we have a lot of ways to support your whole family and make sure that we can improve the quality of life. We also have a group of family champions who are wonderful volunteers throughout our community, throughout the whole United States and worldwide. The purpose of the family champions is to make connections with others within the AS community who can meet you right where you are. So right now, you can email me, you can email someone. Our family champions are listed on our website you can find someone in your area, maybe that is newly diagnosed or who is comfortable talking about what it means to be newly diagnosed and finding that community and finding that support, someone who can help you with the insurance questions because you're being inundated with different waivers that you might need to fill out on Social Security and all of the things that are just really hard to take in. And sometimes it can be really great to speak with someone who knows what they are doing and who has done this in your area before. So that is our purpose of the Family Champions, and they're wonderful people. We also have sibling support. This is a very big passion of ours at the foundation, is we want to make sure that our neurotypical siblings of individuals with Angelman syndrome feel heard, they feel loved, and they feel supported because their life is also impacted by Angelman syndrome. And I will tell you that the siblings of individuals with AS are some of the most amazing people I've ever met. All of these wonderful women on our call right now can attest to that as well. They are compassionate and they are just see the world differently. But sometimes it's okay for them to get together and be like, this is really hard. Or sometimes I don't want to go to therapy and to do that. And that's an okay expression for them to have. It's an okay emotion. We want to make sure that they feel supported. Um, we also have free consults. Goodness, we have anything and everything you can need. You want to talk to someone about a behavior expert. You want to talk to someone about your IEPs, which is a little bit later, but if you're newly diagnosed at 4, then you're going to be entering into the world of the public schools and wanting to get your IEP done. We have someone who can look at that for you. We have everything there. At no cost to you, which is extremely important to the foundation that we make this something that is accessible to this. Another thing I would like to say of one of our consultations is we do have a licensed family counselor named Shannon Barlow who is here to meet with any individual of a family, of an individual with Angelman syndrome. Any family member is welcome to meet with her. She's a wonderful resource. She has talked to, gosh, I think almost 300 different families. She can do it as a married, she can like marriage counseling, she can do family counseling, she can do siblings, she can do individual. She is a great asset to our community, and I think one that we are really, really proud of. And then the newly diagnosed networking. We have virtual calls every other month, which has the opportunity to do a Q&A. We kind of go through this again if you would like, depending on who the crowd is. But we also can do a Q&A with the ASF team. Liz is usually on, Amanda's on, I'm on, and just kind of talk and see, where are you right now? How can we help you? What are things that are really, really important to you right now? Whether that is lack of sleep or trying to help your siblings understand or fitting in all the therapies or just needing a place to just talk. And I know that was a lot of information and we have a lot more information. If anyone else wants to add anything about what we have. No.
Well, I'm going to move into the biggest family support option we have. The
Great
ASF.
segue there.
Thank you. The ASF is proud to host the world's largest gathering of Angelman syndrome families. We have the ASF Family Conference. It happens every other year, so it's even years, as Catherine mentioned. Our next one is coming up in 2026. So at the Angelman Syndrome Family Conference, you can expect educational seminars. You can expect these amazing networking events, which we call Just For sessions. So we'll have moms, dads, grandparents, siblings, caretakers who have a space to come together and feel validated together through your experiences. And sometimes the best learning opportunities are through peer-to-peer interactions. We host wonderful, fun, thanks to the help of Alyssa, receptions and family events that bring together our families to celebrate how wonderful and unique our individuals with Angelman syndrome are. We design our whole conference around making sure the experience is inclusive to the needs of individuals with Angelman syndrome and making sure that they have fun and feel like they're part of the community. We also use this time to bring in vendors who specialize in equipment or products and services that might help you in the journey. We use it also to be an opportunity for you to participate in research. There's research going on all the time for Angelman syndrome, whether it's for something you're experiencing. It could be related to education. It could be related to therapeutics. Could be our natural history study to understand better what Angelman syndrome means to you through the whole lifetime, what you experience. And then finally, I think would be remiss not to mention the sibling programs that Catherine helps organize, because I think that's one of our golden gems is seeing siblings get together and be able to have experiences and just have fun and know they aren't the only person in the world whose sibling is, occupying maybe a little bit more of mom and dad's time by going to therapy, or, they feel like, when's my turn to be the celebrity of the show? And we make sure our siblings feel empowered. And you, mom, dad, grandparents, you're going to learn so much and gain so much. So we really hope you will join us. It's in Colorado. We move it all around the country. We're out west in 2026, Colorado, July 30th through August 1st. We hope you will join us. And all information can be found on that QR code or at asfconference.org.
I just want to add, I think sometimes if you're in the newly diagnosed space and you're thinking about going to a conference, it can feel really overwhelming. And I just want to normalize that feeling. I think everybody probably feels that way. I think we can all say that our first either conference or walk or whatever event it was felt like it took some courage to go to that event, but it just being in a space where everybody gets it, where everybody is there for the same reason, where your kid, your siblings, they're all going to find a space and that it's safe for them and inclusive and welcoming and at a really killer, awesome location where the whole family is going to have fun is a really unique experience. So reach out to one of us if you're feeling like, that feels scary, but you want to talk more about what it might feel like or look like. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Liz, I'm going to have you take this section as well.
Great, thanks. All right, so I'm happy to talk about our clinical network. So this was really this is a network of providers and specialized clinics across the world, really. This started in the US. We have 15 US locations, but we have 36 clinics worldwide, covering 10 different countries. And this was really born out of a desire that we were hearing from the community that they were having trouble finding expert care providers that really understood Angelman syndrome and understood the journey that they were on and really were truly experts. And so this is something that I feel really passionate about. When I often share that when Evelyn was diagnosed, she was diagnosed around her first birthday, and I was a practicing physician at one of the biggest, most prominent medical centers in the US, and there was no Angelman expertise there. Even as a clinician who was very savvy at navigating the healthcare world, I struggled with finding a provider locally and then ultimately felt like, we needed to travel to be seen at one of the specialty sites. And knowing how impactful that was for Evelyn's journey, we really felt compelled to disseminate that knowledge of these few experts at the time and build a network of experts around the country and around the world so that people weren't having to necessarily traverse the country or the globe to be able to be seen by an expert. The goal of the clinics is to connect families to comprehensive medical care, but we're also there to be a platform for research across the world. Education, not just for families, but for local providers, for local school teams, and to help disseminate those community resources that people need to thrive across the lifespan. I think that's important. Not all of our clinics see people across the lifespan. So it is important to check in, with us or with a clinic if you're nearby to one, to make sure that they do see individuals that are, if you have an adult that was newly diagnosed and you're looking for a clinic that sees adults, making sure that it is a clinic. Some of the clinics that are housed within pediatric or standalone children's hospitals do have limitations on the ages that they're able to see. So there's a lot of information on our website about which clinics have which specialist and see what age groups. Next slide. So we often get asked, do I have to visit a clinic? And, why would I visit a clinic? And I'm biased, obviously. We've been visiting clinics since Evelyn was little, and I also work at one of the clinics. But I do think that there is something really valuable about being able to be in a room with people who get it. In most rooms where you are, as Catherine mentioned, you are now the expert. You are going to become the expert in your child and in Angelman syndrome. And in most medical settings, you are probably going to know more than most of the medical providers that you're with. But in the Angelman and the ASF clinic network, you will find true expertise where you can take off that expert hat and really get to, kind of lay out the challenges that are in front of you right now and the strengths, the things that, we celebrate where kids are right now. But we can also talk about the hard things and talk about those with people who've been seeing people with Angelman syndrome, sometimes for decades, 20, 30 years. Um, you should come out of a clinic visit with kind of a personalized care plan. So at our UNC clinic, we're going to get a sense for who you need to see. You don't have to see all 6, 8 providers, but if you need to, or sometimes if you just want to kind of get a good assessment of where your child is at, or at the UNC clinic, we see adults as well. You will walk away with a kind of assessment of where your loved one is at and with a care plan that your team at home can implement. There are some individuals who choose to receive all of their care through the Angelman clinics if they live nearby to one or if their insurance supports that. There's some who choose to use that really as more of a consultative service that then provides the support back to your local clinic. Even for those individuals, I find that the long-term connection that they make through the clinics and being able to go back year after year or every other year really does provide that continuity of care that can be really helpful. And I do hear a lot from families that this makes them feel kind of a peace of mind that they know that expert providers are laying eyes on their child, can give them a sense of where they are, and really provide the best evidence-based guidance that we have.
I was just going to echo that we too started off our journey seeing AAS clinics. I think it was very, very valuable, and I would encourage you, if you have the means and the time, to explore the option. But it also set us up with a great base to know what kind of doctors and specialists at home in our local community, without one near us. My closest one is 4 hours away. That they could also collaborate with our clinical network, learn from their evidence-based papers and outcomes. That's also the great benefit of the clinics, is they're publishing on what is the best way to treat things. And if your doctors at home are collaborative and continuing their education, as all medical providers do, you can find great solutions at home and still leverage the benefits of our clinics.
Well, I was just going to say, it will always remain important to have a local care team. With the current, most providers we don't have universal healthcare systems in the United States. We don't have universal licensure. And so oftentimes it will still require a local provider to be able to collaborate with your, out of state specialty clinic and be able to enact those recommendations. So that's really common. As Chloe mentioned, the clinic network is really dedicated to putting out the best evidence-based guidelines that we can so that community providers can feel empowered to be able to make those decisions. So we have guidelines on seizures, outpatient management of seizures, outpatient management of, a first-time seizure, some of the common seizure complications that can occur, the types of medicines that we know are most beneficial, as well as an overall standard of care document that local providers should have in hand. I always like to encourage families to have it printed off, take it in hand, so that your local provider, who probably feels a little bit helpless, feels more empowered. This is something that we've seen be really powerful in other rare disease communities that have really helped support local pediatricians and local, subspecialty providers feel empowered to care for kids with complex healthcare needs. Yeah, anything else?
I would just say too that if and when you're ready to learn a little bit more, I think we probably have the most robust webinar library. So at any point, if you want to learn from one of these specialists a little bit more about sleep or about GI issues or whatever it may be, if you go to our resource library, you can narrow down exactly the subject you want and pick webinar, and those will come up and you can spend time. We also have an amazing podcast that we take a lot of these webinars and change them into podcasts, so you can just pop your earplugs in as you're going around out and about and listen to this as well. So there's a lot of different resources to help you when it comes to the clinical care of your loved one with Angelman syndrome.
And I just wanted to conclude with, I think, sometimes you will run into people in your community who are healthcare providers who don't know the most about Angelman syndrome. And sometimes you'll find people who have treated and are very confident in treating other neurodevelopmental disabilities. And sometimes you just don't find that person on the first try. So it is completely okay that you've either found a gem and hold on to them in your journey, or if you aren't jiving with your person following this diagnosis, your pediatrician or whoever, it's okay to switch. And I want to make sure you hear that. It's okay to change and break up with your doctor and find someone else in your community who will hear you and validate you and offer really wonderful solutions. Those providers exist in all communities.
And be willing to work with the experts in a field, right? Not every provider is really willing to be collaborative like that. And so that's a totally reasonable thing to ask for and to feel like you need to switch providers because of.
Yeah.
It goes along with therapists too, not
Oh,
just medical
yes, thank you for
practitioners,
saying
but
that. This
make
is
sure our
everybody
OTs,
across
our
the board.
PTs, and our speech therapists are all on the same page with what you want.
So I'm going to go briefly over the slide, but the ASF, like I said, has been investing in research for over 30 years. We've invested close to, actually, this number is a little low. We've invested close to 17 million in Angelman syndrome research, supporting projects worldwide for life-changing treatments and a potential cure for Angelman syndrome. What you'll see in front of you is kind of our roadmap and kind of our Angelman philosophy when it comes to research. We have really concentrated in the last 30 years of people coming to the foundation saying, like, I have a hypothesis, or I have something that I really want to study clinically in Angelman syndrome, or I have something that I think could be a transformational treatment of some sort. And they come and they submit proposals to the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. And our goal is to fund type of that pilot funding. How can we give them money to discover if their hypothesis is true, and then take those findings to move towards getting largest funding from other funders. And so I'm really, really proud of the work that we've done in the Angelman research landscape at the ASF of really being able to fund life-changing hypotheses that are now in phase 3 clinical trials, which I think is so unbelievable to think that, in the early 2000s, the ASF actually funded someone to determine whether an ASO could actually activate the paternal gene. And they determined that it could be possible. And now today we're in phase 3 trials, which Liz will talk about here in a minute, on that particular treatment process. So this is the power of the funding that we provide at the ASF when it comes to research. You can see in the boxes here, we concentrate really on 4 areas. Understanding the UBE3A regulation and the function of it. We look at really kind of those cutting edge therapeutic strategies, the ways that we can have shots on goal to finding a potential transformational treatment for Angelman. We also really focus on the clinical care and innovation. We are living Angelman syndrome now, and there are symptoms of Angelman syndrome that really need to be focused on and supported. So these clinicians and these researchers are looking for ways to treat or support or understand some of these symptomatics so it can improve the quality of life of our loved ones with Angelman syndrome. And then looking at really how do we create really great endpoints and biomarkers so we can take all of those cutting edge therapies, put them into trials, and get them to be successful and approved by the FDA. So, we really work on research. The key is to safe, effective therapies with the goal of significantly improving the quality of life of loved ones with Angelman syndrome. You can go to the next slide.
Great. Do you want me to take this one?
Yes, please.
Great. Okay. So, when we think about kind of where we are in 2025, thinking about the Angelman syndrome therapeutic landscape, most of the current research currently is concentrating on genetic therapies, really to target the underlying cause of Angelman syndrome. Again, that missing or defective UBE3A expression. So the current therapies in development really fall into a couple of three major categories. So there are approaches in late stage development where we are looking at replacing that missing or defective UBE3A gene with a healthy copy of the gene. We're going to see clinical trials for gene replacement strategies starting later this year, early next year. The main approach that's in the clinic right now, again, as Amanda mentioned, is following on 2 decades of research that really, in the early 2000s was funded. That initial proof of concept work was funded by the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, and I'm sure probably felt pretty far-fetched idea to think that we could reactivate dad's copy. But right now we're looking at a multitude of clinical trials that are looking at turning back on dad's copy by knocking out or knocking down that mechanism that's responsible for silencing dad's copy of the working UBE3A gene. So that's that second approach. And then the third is really thinking about, if we're missing UBE3A, what are the downstream consequences of that, and how do we target and modulate those downstream pathways? This is done through a number of different approaches. There's gene editing approaches, again, viral-based strategies of gene replacement, small molecule therapies, and then these RNA or ASO therapies that are in clinical trials right now. Come to one of our live newly diagnosed sessions. We oftentimes get majorly off the rails talking about all of these different clinical trials and the different therapy approaches. So that is absolutely a safe place to come and say, hey, I want to know more about this, and I want to know a little bit more about the trials that are enrolling. It's an incredibly exciting time to have a loved one diagnosed with Angelman syndrome, because there actually are interventional studies that are recruiting in the clinics. We have been, for the last 5 years, in safety phases of clinical trials that have fortunately looked promising enough to progress to phase 3 pivotal studies. So this is just a snapshot of what's happening in late 2025, early 2026. But for the most up-to-date information, it's always important to chat with your team, either your local providers, your local geneticist, or your ASF clinic team. But you can always also kind of keep an eye on where things are by visiting clinicaltrials.gov.
So advocacy has always been a key focus of the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, but we've really kind of kicked it up into action the last few years. And we partner very closely with the Foundation for Angelman Syndrome Therapeutics, and we are united and committed in everything that we do when it comes to advocacy. And so some of our priorities have been, how do we increase federal focus for research investment for Angelman syndrome? Both organizations fund, really strong research within Angelman syndrome, but research is costly. So we are working really hard on how we get federal agencies to really choose Angelman syndrome as a place that they should invest their research dollars. We're also working really hard on supporting legislation to improve the quality of life for people with Angelman syndrome and their families. So how do we join legislation to help caregivers? Some examples of that are, we're really pushing credit for caregiving. How can we support caregivers in the respite work? How do we make sure individuals with Angelman who are adults have long-term care, they have access to day programs, access to the essential cares that they need? We're also looking at how we ensure that regulatory and public policy reflect the priorities of Angelman syndrome. We also work very closely now with the FDA to make sure that we can have some flexibility and appropriate speed when it comes to reviewing potential therapies for Angelman syndrome. And then we're working really hard on how we also support all of our advocates on a state level. We know that a lot of policy comes down from federally, but we also know when it comes to Medicaid insurance and access to resources, it's a state by state issue. So we're working really hard on getting that information to you. And I'm going to pass it over to Catherine to talk about the one thing that you can do to get engaged in advocacy moving forward, as it's such an important tool in your toolbox, but also it's a great way to meet other Angelman families who are really passionate about advocacy. Catherine?
Yeah, so we are gearing up for our third annual Day on the Hill, which is going to be March 4th. We have a training day of March 3rd, 2026 in DC, where the community gathers. And it is such an amazing experience. The community gathers, and we work with a team that gets us meetings with your individual representatives and senators. So it is a time where we come, we focus on what we feel the community really needs right now and what is going to be receptive and heard from by Congress as well. And we get together, we have a training day, and then the next day you go to the Hill and you go and you meet with your representatives or their offices, or you meet with their senators or their staff. And it's such an empowering day. It's a day where you can actually put your boots on the ground. We can actually make a difference. You can make your voice heard, and you can just feel that you are doing something to move forward within your state. We have power in numbers, and we've said that from the get-go. It's power in numbers, and the more people that show up, the more people that flood their representative's office. Or if you can't join us live, then we will have ways that you can also send emails and send updates and call and just get your voice heard to your representatives, these people that we vote in who should be speaking for our voice. And they need to know what our voice is. And so when you meet on the Hill and you just feel empowered, and some people bring their whole families, and so they involve their siblings in it. Some people bring their individuals with Angelman syndrome, if it would be a good fit. My son has attended. Other families, ranging from young to adults, have brought their individuals with Angelman syndrome. But like we said, it's a way for you to express what you need and how this community is going to benefit from the votes and the urging of our legislatures. So we encourage anyone who wants to attend to get in touch with us. We will let you know when registration opens to do this, but it is just a wonderful day. It's an exhausting day, but it is wonderful to know that you are truly, your voice is being heard.
And I can, as we're moving to the next slide, if you look at that little QR code or just go to Hope in Action, we have a specific website that's shared with our partner at FAST that shows all the information about the Day on the Hill, but it also shows all of our former work with the Senate, with federal, with state, and with FDA that you can review. So next
We
slide.
have had some really big wins. I think you need to make notice.
Absolutely. Now you get get to hear from the fun person on the team. Pass it to Alyssa.
Trying not to be too fun over here just yet. So, there are many ways to make an impact in the community, and I'm just going to share a few of them with you. But really, we ask you to think about what's important to you and what your passions are when you want to make an impact, because that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to help you move that forward. So, one of the things that we encourage you to do is find something that works for you and your family and your life. So Angelman Strong is a really a movement in the community to bring people together and form a place where you can come together to celebrate your loved ones with Angelman syndrome. It's a day of joy. It's a day of happiness. It's a day of awareness, and it's a day to to raise funds to support all of those things we have just talked about. Because without fundraising and without being able to raise awareness, we wouldn't have all of those resources available to you, whether it be the clinics, research, family conference, and all the other things that family support that we provide. So in May of every year, we celebrate Angelman Strong, and we encourage you to really come out with your families and be part of this. Bring your friends, bring other people in the community to join you, because it's a great way to introduce them to our amazing community. So really, it's a beautiful day, and we encourage you to be part of it. The other thing that we do as a community is some people choose that they want to do something fun, such as a fundraiser in their area, their local community, to introduce their community to Angelman syndrome. So you are more than welcome to host what we call a community event, and you can set that up through our GoFund Wings. We also have events throughout the United States that you can attend and be part of if you don't want to plan one yourself. But the most important thing is finding people to connect with. And that is the biggest thing we hear about our events is it is a moment to find someone who understands, who, when your child is pulling on your hair or when a child is, smiling really big, that it's the person who also has an individual with Angelman in their life, totally and completely understands. No words are necessary. It's a beautiful thing. And being somebody who is from outside the community and seeing that, it is really heartwarming. So I highly encourage you to look within your community and find the events that are available for you. You can go to our website, and all of those events are listed. As Catherine and Amanda just spoke about, we do have Hope in Action, which is our advocacy days and information about advocacy. So, highly recommend if that is something that you feel fits within your parameters and something that you are passionate about, please take action with that. Truly important. And then another piece that I'd love to share about is the Cure Club. So, the Cure Club is a club of individual donors who have decided that they would like to make a monthly impact and make a difference in the community by making a donation on a monthly basis that can really move forward all of the initiatives that the ASF has going on. So, we encourage you to look into that. And if that's something, maybe that's not financially something that you and your family can do, you may have a parent, a grandparent, a coworker, or someone in your life who may want to help. And it's a great way for that to happen. And it can be a small donation, but those smaller donations on a monthly basis do add up and make a big impact. So we encourage you to look into that for family and friends as well. So, Angelman Strong, as I mentioned before, I mean, you can see from just a few of these pictures, is truly, truly a day of celebration and joy. And I just encourage you to think about if you have friends and family who could use a day just to be together to celebrate your loved one, the coming out and being part of this community really will inspire all of you. And I say, when you look at the faces on this picture, I mean, they speak volumes to the fun that we have. We have amazing community-led volunteers who coordinate these events each year. Last year we had 39 locations plus some other locations that took place. We had 9,000 people who participated, and whether it was in person, and we also do it virtually where people can gather with their family virtually if there isn't an event close to them. The events can be anything from a walk to a 5K to a bowling event to cornhole, pickleball, mini golf, regular golf, anything you can think of. These individuals who are planning these events really have done an amazing job to bring everybody out. So, and again, the funds that are raised from this event only fuel everything that you've just talked about. And as you can see, this year we raised $1.37 million to move everything forward, and we hope to raise even more in 2025. So please, if you're interested in learning more about these events, or you want to know where an event is near you, you can visit angelman.org/strong, or you can reach out to me at any time. I'd be happy to discuss them with you and help you find your community nearby. Thanks.
So, really quickly, I know that was a lot of information to absorb. The good thing is this is recorded, so you can listen to it over and over again. Or one of my favorite things, and I know the rest of the team, is we also just really love to jump on a call and talk with newly diagnosed families and share our journey and how we can support you at the foundation. So don't hesitate to reach out. Most of these dates we've already shared with you. I think a couple to highlight. We do have an amazing team that is going to be headed to run the Chicago Marathon. We have, I think, close to 63 runners. That's coming up. So if you are newly diagnosed and you love running, we have a place for you as well. The other date that I'm going to just really quickly pass over to Chloe to talk about is a date that I think all newly diagnosed people really kind of get excited. I remember when we were first diagnosed, it was literally January, and International Angelman Day was the next month, and we just blew it out of the water to try to raise as much awareness as possible. So, Chloe, you want to just really briefly, as we end here, talk about the International Angelman Day?
Yes, so it is overwhelming to figure out A, you have a new diagnosis, B, your community is learning about it, and C, what can you do next? I know that was me. I wanted to know, all right, I'm going to take care of my child. I'm going to rise to this occasion because I have no choice and I can. But now I'm going to get involved because this journey is best not done alone. So these are all the ways you can do so. It's helpful to have it in one place so you can just mark your calendar. This is 2026. But I think where you can start, a very easy starting point, is International Angelman Day. Every year, it's on February 15th in honor of the 15th chromosome, and the whole globe will come together to raise awareness and support for Angelman syndrome. You'll see landmarks like Niagara Falls light up blue to raise awareness, and you'll see people on social media talking about Angelman syndrome and really impactful things happening to fundraise and raise awareness. So, if you do nothing else and everything else feels overwhelming, just take February 15th to spread the word about Angelman syndrome because the more people who know about it, similarly to Down syndrome or autism, the more impact we can have as a foundation and as a community to amplify our voices. So your voice counts just to spread what Angelman syndrome is and the joy and completely meaningful lives our loved ones and children have in this world. So we invite you to participate with us.
And just so you guys know, this is another great reason to sign up for the contact registry or join the Angelman Syndrome Foundation Facebook page. We will post tons of templates and resources and things that you can use on that day to help you celebrate and raise awareness. So next slide. So I know you have taken in a lot and we have given you a lot of information. You see 3 email addresses here on the screen, so please make note of them. You can reach out anytime to any of us, any question that you may have. Our goal at the foundation is to make sure that at any point in this journey, you feel like someone's walking along with you, no matter what that is, whether it's a hospital stay, whether it's a challenging IEP meeting, whether it's celebrating the milestones of walking, using an AAC device, which do happen, all those moments we want to be a part of. So make sure you take down this information and don't hesitate to ever reach out to us. That's what we're here for here at the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. So as you move on after this webinar, know that you're not alone. And that it's going to be great. I tell everyone that I talk to that I have far more wonderful, beautiful days with Jackson than hard days. And so please know that on those hard days that we are here and support you in any way that we possibly can. Have a great day and we'll talk to you guys soon.